Right. This is gonna be a tough one. I hoped that our next meeting could be under better circumstances, but unfortunately Square Enix has foolishly decided to end Final Fantasy XIV support for Windows 10 on the 14th of October 2025, the very same day Microsoft will be doing so. It is very common knowledge that the majority of PCs in active use are unable to upgrade to Windows 11. Obscenely stringent minimum system requirements outright prevent upgrade for a significant portion of PCs even if the user is willing, and flawed design elements with poor optimization are commonly cited reasons to not be willing. Once support for Windows 10 ends, several hundred million PCs are doomed. While they won't become obsolete overnight, the clock is ticking down and down to the day the programs they run stop working on Windows 10. This will likely be the single biggest jump in abandoned computers in recorded history, causing an enormous increase in electronic waste on International E-Waste Day, which is itself a critique of the issue. Very ironic. Circling that back around to the main point, the ticking clock from before is referenced in Final Fantasy XIV as well. While no, this doesn't mean that once the 14th hits, Windows 10 users are immediately unable to play. What it does mean is, in an indeterminate amount of time after the 14th, we're going to pull the plug at a moment's notice. However, that is still bad and the backlash is still deserved. If you want to compare this to some past end of support for 14, you can look firstly to Windows 7. Microsoft ended support for it in Jan 2020, and the 14 client support for it ended the same day. And the game remained playable out of the box until May 2022, when it began enforcing TLS 1.2, which Windows 7 users needed to edit their registry to make work. Functionally, 14 on Windows 7 died that day, even if you could technically still make it work. But then with the release of Dawntrail and its graphical update, Windows 7 actually died. Square Enix didn't announce this, but not one person has reported being able to run Dawntrail on Windows 7 to my knowledge. There's also DirectX 9 and 32-bit OS. Announced end of support in 2019, it didn't actually die until Dawntrail release. On the other hand, those poor PS3 users only got 3 months of notice before they were kicked out for Stormblood. So indeterminate amount of time is accurate and probably an understatement, but we know from past examples that it's usually expansion launches that mess things up. So will 8.0 be the final nail for Win 10 players, or will it be 9.0? Maybe 10.0 if the game actually survives that long? Who can say, really? I have seen a lot of confidently wrong people claim that this is somehow being mandated by Microsoft or a liability thing for Square Enix, with the idea being that if the OS manufacturer isn't providing security updates, then it's somehow quote-unquote illegal for Square Enix to release Final Fantasy XIV updates. You must keep in mind that a significant amount of other developers maintain support for their programs to be run on obsolete OSs. Most notably, Valve's support of Steam on Windows 7 and 8 didn't end until 2024. And if you're still grandfathered in, it still works to this day, at the time of uploading at least. So where this idea came from that Square Enix has to end support for 14 is beyond me. So if not a corporate mandate, then why? Well, keep in mind that this shows not only disrespect to the raised minimum system requirements as of 14, as of the Dawntrail update, that already caused more problems than it was worth regarding optimization, might I add, but also to Microsoft's initial plan to never even have a Windows 11 to begin with and just keep going with 10 forever. With both of these in combination, I can only assume that Square Enix's plan here is to price low spenders out of the game entirely. After all, Microsoft's only advice to the PCs left behind is buy a new PC. Ignoring how offensive that is on its own, finding and buying a PC within that can also run 14 is going to be prohibitively expensive. So Lucy, Square Enix isn't ending support for the 14 client, they're just echoing the Microsoft announcement. First fucking line. Say it with her, folks! I can't read, I'm a 14 fan! Speaking of which, This announcement has brought to my attention that other people in this community, especially main sub or main sub adjacent communities, love accusing others of illiteracy when they themselves are illiterate. So before we move on to personal updates, I'm just going to set the record straight in a conclusion. Yes, they are ending support for the 14 client. No, this isn't a mandate from Microsoft. Square Enix could have continued for longer if they wanted to. It was Square Enix's decision not to, so they are just as much to blame. But also, no, this does not kill the game immediately on October 14th. You still have an unspecified amount of time left before the plug gets pulled. Could be 5 years, could be a mere few months, nobody could really say. And yes, the uncertainty is a valid reason to be concerned. Now with all of that out of the way, what does this mean for my channel as someone who is still stuck on Windows 10? In short, I'm giving Square Enix until September to reverse this decision. I think that's a fair amount of time. My hiatus of, I know shit sucks, but let's just stick it out till 8.0 and then reassess from there. If they don't reverse this, will instead just become effective immediate retirement from 14. I was working on 214 videos, and assuming that they don't reverse the decision, one of those will be cancelled, but the other will be longer. I'll also still cover FanFest and Media Tour, but won't be playing 8.0 regardless. However, as stated in the fake graduation announcement, there is still a future for me outside of 14 in Variety, and I expected that to be more of a down-the-line thing, honestly. But you can probably expect to start seeing it within the general time frame of now. Remember to like the video if you did, subscribe if you're interested in hearing more from me, join the Discord if you'd like to get in touch personally, and take care until the next one.